I told my sister she shouldn't have another kid because she's already a bad mom. I, 29 female, have a sister, 32 female, who up until about 2 weeks ago, I would have said I loved, but in a we're family, so I have to kind of way. Not a we're super close way. She has one son, my nephew, 6M, and a long-term boyfriend, 35M, who's been in the picture for maybe 4 years now. I also have a husband, 30M, and no kids yet, something that's been a point of tension because my sister constantly teases me about waiting too long or missing my window. Growing up, we were your typical siblings with a 3-year gap. She was the loud, impulsive, I'll figure it out later type, and I was the overachieving, organized mom friend even as a kid. That dynamic never really went away. If anything, it's gotten worse in adulthood because now the stakes are bigger than whose turn it is to do dishes. It's about actual life decisions, finances, and parenting. We don't hang out much unless it's a family event. Most of the time, our conversations are over text, usually about her venting or asking for favors. I try to be supportive, but honestly, I've had concerns about how she parents her son for years. That's not to say she doesn't love him, she clearly does, but love doesn't automatically equal good parenting. And that's where things start to get messy. My sister's always been the do first, think later type. In high school, she'd skip classes to hang out with friends, blow her paycheck on clothes, then call me crying because she couldn't afford gas. Back then, it was just frustrating. Now, that pattern has followed her into adulthood. Only instead of missed homework, it's missed rent, late utility bills, and scrambling for childcare. She got pregnant with my nephew at 25. It wasn't planned. She was dating this guy at the time who, well, let's just say commitment was not his middle name. He bailed before the baby was even born. Our parents stepped in to help a lot. My mom basically lived at her place those first few months, cooking meals and rocking the baby at 3 a.m. while my sister rested. I told myself she was just overwhelmed as a first-time mom, but honestly, she seemed more focused on getting back to her social life than figuring out how to take care of an infant. When her current boyfriend came into the picture, I had hoped things would stabilize, and to be fair, he's better than her ex. He works, he's around, and my nephew likes him. But even with that stability, I've watched her make decisions that make me cringe, pulling my nephew out of daycare because it's too expensive, even though she then spent the same amount on a weekend getaway. Letting him miss school because she didn't feel like driving in the rain. Feeding him fast food for dinner 5 nights in a row because he won't eat anything else. I don't want to paint her as a villain. She has moments where she's really sweet and engaged as a mom, reading bedtime stories, making crafts together, taking him to the park. But those moments feel more like bursts than a consistent pattern. And the inconsistency, that's what gets to me. Kids need stability. He doesn't always have that. Over the years, I've bitten my tongue a lot. My husband has heard me rant about it, my friends know the general gist, but I've avoided outright telling her what I think because I know she's sensitive and I know she'd see it as an attack, not concern. But the truth is, I've been building this mental list of evidence for years, and it was only a matter of time before it all spilling out. I adore my nephew, like full stop. If I could bottle up his laugh and keep it forever, I would. I'm Auntie so-and-so who always shows up with snacks, a new book, and way too much enthusiasm for board games. I'm also, unintentionally, the backup babysitter. I can't even count how many times I've gotten last-minute texts from my sister. Hey, can you watch nephew tonight? Just a couple hours. Emergency, I forgot I have a hair appointment. Or, can you pick him up from school? I'm running late. Sometimes a couple hours turns into 5. Sometimes running late means she just doesn't show up until bedtime. And yes, I usually say yes because I don't want my nephew to feel like he's being passed around or ignored. But it's exhausting, and it blurs the line between being a loving aunt and being a safety net for her bad planning. I've also been the one to catch little things she missed. Homework in the bottom of his backpack, notes from the teacher about him being late too often, the fact that he was still wearing damp socks one morning because his laundry hadn't been done yet. I try to fix these things quietly, but each time it happens, I get this knot in my chest. It's not my kid, but I feel this fierce protective streak that makes me want to step in, even though I know that's not really my place. There's also this pattern I've noticed. My nephew is different with me. He's calmer, more focused, and he opens up about stuff he won't tell her. Like how he hates it when she's on her phone during dinner, or that he sometimes feels lonely when she's out. Hearing that breaks me, and it's a big reason why I've kept saying yes whenever she asks for help. I want him to have at least one adult in his life who makes him feel fully seen. But lately, I've been wondering if my constant stepping in has been enabling her. Like maybe she's not making changes because she knows I'll always be there to pick up the slack. And that thought, it makes me angry. Not just at her, but at myself. The first sign something was coming was about a month ago. We were at our parents' house for Sunday dinner. Me, my husband, my sister, her boyfriend, my nephew, and our folks. Everyone was chatting in the kitchen and she was scrolling on her phone, giggling at something. Out of nowhere, she said to her boyfriend, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Babe, look at this cute baby outfit. Imagine this on our little girl." I remember freezing mid-bite. A little girl? Since when were they even talking about another kid? My mom laughed like it was a sweet idea. My dad just kind of raised his eyebrows. My husband glanced at me with that subtle, "we'll talk later" look. Over the next couple of weeks, little hints kept slipping out, her casually mentioning when the baby comes, like it was already a done deal, browsing cribs online while my nephew was glued to a tablet in the corner, telling my mom that she'd been off the pill for a few months. The kicker was a phone call I got about 2 weeks ago. She asked if I could help her deep clean the spare room because she was thinking of turning it into a nursery. I tried to keep my voice neutral and said something like, "Oh, that's exciting." But my brain was screaming, "Why are you planning another baby when you can barely manage the one you have?" That night, I vented to my husband. He's heard it all before, but even he was like, "Yeah, that doesn't seem like the best timing." I mean, she still calls me because she can't afford gas sometimes. She still forgets parent-teacher conferences. She's still relying on my parents to cover her when she's sick. The thought of her adding another child into that mix felt irresponsible. And here's the thing, I know it's not my decision. It's her body, her life. But when it directly affects a kid I already care about and potentially another kid, it's hard to bite my tongue. Every time I saw my nephew over those 2 weeks, I kept thinking about how his needs already get pushed aside sometimes, and how a baby would only make that worse. By the time she officially told me her plan, my patience was already hanging by a thread. It happened on a Wednesday night, of all times. I had just gotten home from work, still in my blazer, still holding my keys, when my phone buzzed. It was my sister. "Hey," she said, way too chipper for 6:30 p.m. "Guess what? We've decided we're officially trying for another baby." I swear I stood there in my hallway like a statue. My brain was doing that thing where you hear words, but they take a second to compute. And then, boom. The irritation I'd been swallowing for weeks just came bubbling up. "That's a big decision," I managed. I was aiming for neutral, but my tone must have been off because she immediately went on the defensive. "Why do you sound weird about it?" she asked. "I don't sound weird," I lied. "Yes, you do. You sound like you think it's a bad idea." And that's when I should have just said something vague like, "I'm surprised, that's all." But instead, all the little frustrations I'd been collecting like lint in my pockets started itching at once. I just, I don't know," I said, sighing. "You already have your hands full with nephew, and you've said yourself that it's been hard lately. I'm just surprised you're adding more to your plate." She gave this little laugh, the kind she uses when she's annoyed, but trying to play it cool. hard doesn't mean I can't handle it. I'm a good mom. My heart started thumping because in my head I was screaming, "Are you, though?" But I kept it inside, for the moment. We hung there in awkward silence. I could hear my boyfriend talking to my nephew in the background. She was waiting for me to say something reassuring, something supportive. But all I could think about was that I'd picked up my nephew from school twice that week already because she forgot the early dismissal days. Finally, she said, "I thought you'd be happy for me." That was the moment the thin little rope holding my tongue snapped. I wish I could say I took a deep breath, thought about my words, and delivered them in a calm, diplomatic way, but no. I went from 0 to full emotional brain in about 5 seconds. You want me to be happy for you, but I'm not because, honestly, I don't think you should have another kid when you're already not doing a good job with the one you have. Silence. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. "What?" she finally said, her voice going icy. "You heard me." And now my words were tripping over each other in the rush to get out. "I love nephew, you know I do, but I'm the one picking him up from school half the time. I'm the one making sure he eats something besides chicken nuggets. You let him miss class because it's raining. You dump him on me or mom whenever you want to go out." "Wow," she cut in, her voice getting louder. "So you've been keeping a little scorecard this whole time." "I'm not keeping score," I shot back. "I'm telling you what I see. And what I see is a kid who doesn't get the consistency and attention he deserves. Adding another newborn to that, it's going to make things worse." She made this sharp, disbelieving laugh. "You don't get to judge me just because you read a bunch of parenting blogs or babysit sometimes. You don't even have kids." That one stung, but I pushed through it. "Maybe I don't, but I know what's best for nephew. And it's not being pushed aside for a brand new baby when things are already shaky." Her voice cracked, not crying, but on the edge. "You're calling me a bad mom?" And here's where I could have backtracked, softened it, spun it into something like, "I'm just worried about you." But I didn't. I doubled down. "Yes, I think you're a bad mom sometimes. And I think having another kid right now is selfish." There was this long, brittle pause. Then she said, "You know what? F you," and hung up. I just stood there in my hallway, phone still in my hand, my blazer still on, feeling like I just set fire to something I couldn't put out. The click of the call ending echoed in my head. I didn't even move for a solid minute. My husband came into the hallway, saw my face, and went, "Oh no, what happened?" I told him, word for word, what I'd said. His eyebrows went up so high I thought they'd get stuck there. He didn't say, "You shouldn't have said that," but the pause before he spoke said it for him. "Well," he said carefully, "I'm sure she's processing." Processing. Yeah, and that's one word for it. Another word could be rage spiraling, because 15 minutes later, I got a text from my mom. "Your sister just called me sobbing. She says you called her a bad mom. What happened?" That was followed by another one from mom before I could even respond. I'm not taking sides, but that was a hurtful thing to say. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed again, this time from my sister's boyfriend. I didn't even open it. I shoved my phone under a pillow and went straight into our bedroom because I could feel my chest tightening. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, my own voice saying the words, like some awful audio loop. Sometimes I'd feel a surge of relief, like, finally, I told her the truth. Then I'd feel this wave of guilt, picturing her crying to my mom, telling me I didn't understand, saying I'd crossed a line you can't uncross. The next morning, I woke up to more texts, one from my dad. "You know I meant well, but you could have phrased it better." One from my sister. "Don't talk to me ever again." And one from a mutual friend who apparently got filled in on the drama. Yikes, girl. By lunchtime, I was half convinced I'd just detonated my relationship with my sister forever. The other half of me still wasn't sure if that was entirely a bad thing. The thing about telling someone the truth, or at least your truth, is that it doesn't stop echoing just because you hang up the phone. The words keep bouncing around, growing sharp edges in some places, getting dull in others. All day at work, I found myself drifting into these mental debates with myself. One version of me was like, "You said what needed to be said. She needed a reality check." The other version of me was muttering, "You didn't need to say it like that. You could have been kinder. You could have been less nuclear." I kept asking myself, was I reacting to her decision about another kid? Or was I unloading years of pent-up frustration all at once? Because that conversation wasn't really about Wednesday night. It was about the missed school pickups, the forgot lunches, the endless excuses. It was about me feeling like I was protecting her kid from her choices. And then there's the part that stings the most. I know she loves my nephew. I've seen her light up when he shows her something he's proud of. I've seen her cry when she thought she was failing him. Which means my words didn't just hit her ego, they hit her where she's most vulnerable. I hate that I hurt her. I hate that I probably made her dig in even deeper instead of reflect. And yet, if I sugarcoated it, would she have even heard me? The irony is, I've read enough about parenting and child development to know that calling someone a bad mom is basically guaranteed to shut down any productive conversation. But in the moment, logic wasn't driving the car. Anger was. And anger doesn't care about repair, it cares about impact. The question I can't shake is this. If I know she's not in the right place to take care of another kid, and I don't say anything, am I complicit if things get worse? Or am I just a self-righteous jerk sticking my nose where it doesn't belong? It's been 11 days since that call, and my sister hasn't spoken to me once. Not a text, not a like on social media, not even a passive-aggressive meme in her Instagram story, which honestly is her usual go-to when she's mad. The only updates I've gotten about her have been secondhand. My mom told me she's still really upset and that she's been leaning on our parents a lot for help with my nephew lately, which makes me wonder if she's already checked out of talking to me for good. My dad's trying to play Switzerland, but even he said, "You need to decide if the relationship matters more than being right." Meanwhile, the group chat with my parents, my husband, and me is now awkwardly missing my sister's name like she's been digitally exiled. And the thing is, I don't like this silence. I'm used to her popping in with random requests or updates, even if they annoyed me. Now it just feels empty. My nephew's birthday is coming up in a month, and I have no idea if I'm even invited to the party. Part of me wants to reach out to her for his sake to make sure this fight doesn't spill over onto him. Another part of me thinks she might be still so angry that my text would either get ignored or make things worse. I keep running into this wall in my own head. I believe what I said, but I hate the way I said it. I hate the bluntness, the finality of bad mom. That's not a label you can just shake off. And if she ever was going to prove me wrong, now it's almost like I've dared her not to. So right now, we're in this cold war. She's not budging. I'm not sure I should be the first to cave. And the longer it drags on, the heavier it feels.
Here's where I'm stuck. I meant what I said, but I regret how I said it. It's not like I think my sister is some kind of monster. She loves her son. But I genuinely believe she's inconsistent, careless at times, and not in a place where she should be taking on another child. That's my honest view. The problem is, honesty can burn bridges just as easily as lies can. And right now, my bridge with her is basically ash. I've thought about apologizing, not for the sentiment, but for the delivery. Like, I'm sorry I said it in such a hurtful way, but I'm still worried about you. But part of me wonders if that's just me trying to put out a fire without actually moving the gasoline can. My husband thinks I should let her cool off longer before I reach out. My mom keeps hinting that I should make the first move.
My dad says it's a mutual pride standoff, which, yeah, he's not wrong. What I can't figure out is whether I crossed an unfixable line. Is there any way to come back from telling someone they're a bad mom? And if she does go ahead and have another kid, will she just see me as the unsupportive sister who never believed in her? So, AIO, am I overreacting to her plans? Or was it right to speak up even if it cost me our relationship? Should I apologize or stand by what I said? Because right now, I feel torn between protecting my nephew and not completely destroying my family dynamic. And I honestly don't know which instinct is the right one.